Okay, listen, I know fake plants are controversial, but I'm killing way too many real ones trying to make it work. So if that sounds like you too, then you're in luck, because in today's video, I'm gonna share some tips on how to find the best fake plants for your home decor. My name's Michelle and I'm a bit newer here to posting on YouTube, so if you do like this type of content, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. I like all things DIY, thrifting, and home decor, so if that's of interest to you too, you might like it here. Just saying. Alright, so let's get into it. Fake plants can be a great alternative. They're way less maintenance than real plants. There's no soil, no watering, no sunlight. So if you live in an apartment where you don't have great light, could be an option. And also, they can really be more cost effective, because if you're like me and you're often killing plants, then you have to constantly rebuy plants, and a fake plant, you just buy it once and it lasts forever. You don't have to worry about it dying on you. While I do understand nothing can replace a real plant, these are some tips to find some real looking fake plants. Okay, so tip number one is to look for plants that have multiple leaves, preferably smaller ones. Now look, I get it, large leaf plants can be beautiful, but honestly, when it comes to fake plants, they have nowhere to hide. I've noticed that big leaves like this just look way more rubbery and often give away their artificial nature right off the bat. Smaller leaves though allow for more variation and texture, which often give the plant a more natural look. In my opinion, the more leaves, the more lifelike it'll seem. If, for example, you place a large fake tree in front of a blank wall with nothing else going on, you're going to give people more of an opportunity to investigate whether or not it's real or fake. So instead, try and make it cohesive and blend into your space, and that won't give them the opportunity to do so. In general, when I'm decorating, I like to create little vignettes, and fake plants are just another piece of home decor, so you should treat them the same way. Just make sure it looks like they're meant to be there and cohesive with the space, rather than sticking out in the open. Just keep in mind that a plant's texture will stand out more if it's the center of attention, so you really want to make sure it's blended into the space and looks like it's just part of the environment. So when picking out your fake plants, try and stray away from ones that have a more distinct pattern on them, especially if you're looking for large leaf plants, because oftentimes those patterns just look like they're almost printed on, whereas you should be looking for ones that have a more subtle color variation, which gives it a more natural, believable look. A similar thing applies in terms of veining. So a lot of times fake plants have that fake veining on the leaves to try and make it look more believable, but if it's overdone, it just screams that it's fake. You really want to try and find that balance of looking for fake plants that have those more natural elements to them, but aren't overdone in such a way that makes it look even more artificial. I know this is a fine line, but if you just keep an eye out for things like that, it'll really help the believability factor in terms of bringing fake plants into your home. When you are looking for those more large leaf plants, I consider checking out ones that break up the texture a little bit more. So for example, a plant like Monstera that has those natural cutouts within the leaves, that'll help break up the texture of the artificial plant a little bit more, which in turn tricks your eye a tiny bit and makes it feel a little bit more believable than if it didn't have those cutouts at all. Flexibility is another thing to look out for. So of course, natural plants have that organic look to them, they flow and they bend easily, whereas fake plants often look more straight and stiff. So keep in mind when you're looking for fake plants, try and look for ones that have some sort of flexibility to their branches and leaves. That way you can manipulate them to bend and look a little bit more natural than if it was just that stiff fake plant. Okay, tip number 5 is to be cautious of too bright of a shade of green. So you're really going to want to avoid those bright lime green fake plants because those just scream that they're fake. There is no way a real plant is that shade of green, and even if it is, I'd still think that that was fake. I definitely keep in mind that actual real plant version, so just compare the real version to the fake version and make sure it's similar. You know, some variation in color is definitely going to help, but those bright colors are they're just not going to sell it. A natural plant typically has those varying shades of green, so try and keep that in mind when you're looking for your fake plants and look for ones that have a more muted, softer color palette than those bright colors. I feel like I also see some fake plants that have that yellow to them. I see this a lot of times in snake plants, and you should definitely avoid that. Look for something that has more subtle hues. It'll really go a long way. Another thing to keep in mind is the finish on the leaves. So a lot of times these fake plants can have a more shiny, glossy look to them. So if you look for plants that have a more matte finish or almost like an eggshell, that's even better because it'll avoid that rubbery artificial look. So tip 6 is to swap out the pot that it comes in. A lot of times fake plants come in those really small plastic black pots that are just the wrong size for the scale of the plant itself. So definitely swap this out. You can put it inside of a larger pot and that'll definitely help the believability factor. In doing so, you can also do the fake moss or dirt hack where you fill that pot with some fake moss or dirt on top, and it just gives it some more texture and makes it look like it's actually real. I actually did this in my space with the fake olive tree behind me, and it's worked so well. I can't even begin to tell you how many times people come over and they see that moss on top and they're just so confused. They're like, is that a real plant? And it's an olive tree. Like, there are literally fake olives on there. There's no shot I'm growing olives in my home. So it's definitely something that works. I'd really give it a try. It's a really great, simple trick to use. And you're also adding texture to it, which makes it feel a little bit more natural because it has those elements of moss and dirt going on, which feels more real. A little bonus tip I'll give you is to try and create your own arrangements by using faux stems rather than buying something that's already pre-made. A lot of times those pre-made arrangements just don't look real, and if you have faux stems, you can try and assemble them yourselves, and you have that flexibility to customize how sparse you want it or full, and that'll really give a more natural look. So if you're struggling to find fake plants, I'd definitely give this a try and assemble it on your own. You just get a bunch of fake plants and do it yourself. It'll really give you that flexibility and customization to make it look more natural. So where do you find the best fake plants? For me personally, I like to try and keep it more affordable. So you can't go wrong with places like Target, IKEA, or even craft stores. But craft stores can go either way. I like to look at Michael's or Hobby Lobby, but sometimes they fall into the trap of the bright lime green colored plants. So definitely keep that in mind when you're going, now that you know the tips and tricks. If you're looking for something a bit more high end, West Elm has some great options, as does Etsy, honestly, so definitely check those out. But a lot of times I often find things on Amazon. Amazon's actually really great as well. They have options for every budget, as long as you're willing to look into the reviews and look at people's videos and pictures. That's definitely going to help out because obviously you can't see it in person. If you just read into those reviews, do your research, you'll be fine. So those are all my tips for finding the best fake plants. I hope this video was helpful and that you learned something. If you enjoyed, please give it a thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next one.